Hello and welcome back to Endstep, the Upkeep after show. Last week we were all playing partner decks, except for kind of Preston, but we can let him explain that a little bit. Pretty exciting game. It was actually my first win since Halloween, which is kind of weird because I felt like I started the season off pretty bonkers. But this was a pretty long game. A lot happened. The upside of that is that we got to see a lot of our decks, but today we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about the game, talking about some of the cards we didn't get to show off, and all that stuff. And as per usual, if you haven't seen that game, go check it out, because otherwise this video not going to make a whole lot of sense. Oh, and then also, I always forget to mention this, but if you go to that game, you can also check the description of that video and see all of our deck lists there if you want to see very specific stuff that we might not even touch on here. So, yeah, partners. Steven, this is actually the, I believe, third time that we've seen your Browlin and Shabraz deck.
Technically, that's true.
Tell us anything that maybe is new about your deck, maybe something that is specifically different from the other iterations that we've seen before.
The main difference is I put a Niv Mizzet Paran Infinite Combo in the deck with Curiosity, which I had Curiosity in my starting hand, never played it, so I was looking for Niv Mizzet the entire game, never got it. If I do the Niv Mizzet Paran and Curiosity Infinite Combo, I have to break it myself, otherwise I kill myself.
Or your opponents already have to be at low enough life.
Which, at that point, like, later in the game, like, that could have happened, but I have to stop it myself. Most other, at least if everyone's starting at starting. If, say, that's when that happens. To get it started, all you gotta do is either have him deal damage to an opponent, or you draw a card. And then when you draw a card, he'll do 1 damage, which will make you draw a card, which will make you deal damage.
And then just loops.
And then it's to any target, so I would just ping a player, and then I'll draw my whole deck. But I need to stop it again, otherwise... No, actually, no, because Curiosity says you may draw a card, so you can't stop it. Never mind.
Would that have changed anything, knowing that you're a silly goober?
No. I also just, I still never got to play Shark Typhoon on the channel. I love Shark Typhoon.
Has it been in your deck all 3 times that you played the deck?
I think so. And it's never shown up.
Well, luckily, if you want to see Steven's Browlin and Shabraz deck really kick off, he did win with it the first time he played it over the summer on our 4th of July episode.
It did pretty well the Custom Commander episode, which is pretty much it's pretty much exactly the same, except the Custom Commander is different, of course. It did good until y'all teamed up on me, so... But yeah, Freedom Week I won with it, so if y'all want to see it do really well, that's the video you gotta check out.
Preston, you have played this deck before. You played it on the $50 budget episode, and then you've said you upgraded a little bit before today. So what couple upgrades did you make between that episode and this episode? And then also talk to us a little bit about the fact that we have, partner, Steven has partner with. Background is similar, but walk us through that process of doing something a little bit different.
Yeah, so when I first built the deck, obviously it was for that budget week, so it was a $50 budget. Right now I think it's like 2 something, so like I've upgraded the lands, a couple of the artifacts, some better options are in there. The main thing I think is really the board wipes, which there are okay board wipes at cheap, but like Farewell I couldn't have in that original episode, so like stuff like that is the main thing. Cyclonic Rift, so those are the big ones. As for me playing it this week, so obviously background is a variant of the partner commander, and it's probably my favorite overall because I think it's just the most interesting since it's 1 creature instead of 2, which can be really overwhelming to people a lot of the time, because when your background is out without your other commander, it doesn't do anything. It's just an enchantment that sits there doing nothing. So I think it's probably my favorite of all of the variations partner has. I definitely think it's the most fair, besides maybe partner with, since that's only 1 option, but yeah.
I can get behind that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we, gave Preston the okay to do that. Tommy, so you were actually borrowing one of my decks because you don't have a partner deck. And this is the first time that this deck has showed up on the channel, so It's, goading, it's controlling combat. You did get to play it in one other test game last week or the week before, whenever that was.
whenever,
And
just
I sent you the
thing, yeah.
I sent you the deck list a few weeks ago so you can get familiar with it. What do you think about the deck? Were there a couple of cards that you were hoping to play? It's one of my favorite decks to play right now, because it was kind of a budget deck, but then I was like, yeah, I don't need it to be a budget deck, so I made a few upgrades, so it's like a little over $100 or something like that. But yeah, tell us a little bit about maybe some of the things you would have liked to have seen.
Oh yeah, I mean honestly, I had a lot of fun playing it. I think it's a really fun deck to play. It's different than a lot of the decks that I build. A lot of decks I build tend to be like creature combat heavy, but on their own and not trying to mess with other people's stuff.
Now you're trying to make
now
other people do it.
now it's like I'm trying to make other people attack, and then also incentivizing them to not attack me and attack my opponents. So it's fun. I had fun with it. But yeah, I mean, and as far as like stuff that I didn't get to play that I kind of wish I could have. A card similar, we saw Spectacular Showdown, which was really fun. Overloading that just makes it super fun, and is like could be considered a win con for it. Similar but a lot more simpler is Disrupt Decorum. Just go at all creatures I don't control. So it's just all right. Everybody's got some creatures out. Smack each other. go nuts. I'm gonna stand here and watch. So that's fun. And then a couple of other fun ones that we didn't get to see were Reigns of Power, which is an instant, and I untap all creatures I control and all creatures target opponent controls. You and that opponent each gain control of all creatures the other controls until end of turn. Those creatures gain haste. So basically, me and an opponent switch creatures we control for a turn, and then they gain haste. Just have at it. So that's really fun. That would have been fun to see. And of course, Karazakar, the Eye Tyrant. I have this card. It's really fun. I think I have it in Ishin, or I did at one point. If I don't, still. But whenever I attack a player, tap target creature that player controls and goad it. And whenever an opponent attacks another one of your opponents, you and the attacking player each draw a card and lose a life. So it's just again more fun ways of goading my opponent's creatures so they don't hit me, and also getting some value out of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that really is one of my favorite decks for the last little bit. It was one of the decks I took with me when I went to MagicCon, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's not very good. It's actually kind of hard to. I do sometimes win with it, but it tends to, like the games you do win, it's you goaded so much that the other three guys kill two of them, and then it's down to you and one other person, and then you just have to.
Left.
Yeah, and then you just have to hope that you have a little bit more advantage than they do, and if not, then you're just going to lose anyways.
Yeah.
So
that
it's
was
a lot
one
of
thing.
fun,
Even after the game, looking through the deck, I'm like, there's not a lot of just straight win cons in here.
No, there's some decent creatures. There's some pinging, and then you have I think we got to see a couple of your pillow 40 cards like Propaganda. I think we got to see.
Yeah, Propaganda we saw, and
there's stuff like that, or there's if you attack me, I get to draw a card, or if you attack me, you lose a life. There's stuff like that. So, which helps you if you do get to that point. But
right.
I'm not going to talk too much about my deck because we got to the point where I drew so many cards and ramped and deck thinned and stuff that it really was at the point where I only had probably 25, 30 cards left in my deck or something. My deck was very small. There wasn't really much of note in there, just a lot of utility pieces like T-Pro and removal. I guess I have Opposition Agent in the deck, which is kind of funny. Which is 3 mana black human rogue with flash. When he enters the battlefield, you gain control of target opponents while you control opponents while they're searching their libraries, and then you get the cards that they were tutoring for. So it's a very situational card, but if someone's like, oh, I'm going to cultivate, now you get to go get their lands, or oh, I'm going to demonic tutor, now you get to grab whatever you want from their deck. So it's pretty funny. But otherwise, there wasn't really much else to say about my deck. I really got to do the thing. This is by far the best I've ever done with the deck. I played this deck back on the Plane Chase episode, and I played it a few times here and there in between here, not on camera. And the biggest thing with the deck was it just needed more card draw. And so when I was preparing for this episode, I upgraded the land base a little bit. There were a couple other creatures I switched out, but the main thing was I just went all in on card draw because that's what the deck needed, and in a real way, that's actually how I ended up pulling out the win. But this game was like almost 3 hours long. I don't know what it's going to look like post editing, but it was almost 3 hours long. And I feel like that's because we kept board wiping, because there were
That had a lot to do with it.
there were multiple times where my board was big enough that I could have started killing people, and then people just board wiped. What do you guys think about those kind of games? Do you ever feel like maybe I shouldn't board wipe? Maybe I should just let the game end? Or do you ever think like, because I know I've done that. I know I've had games where I could board wipe, but there's not a logical way for me to win if I do, so I'll just not. Do you guys ever think about that? Do you think maybe people are running too many board wipes in their decks? What do you think is the sweet spot for board wipes in decks? Steven, why don't you start?
I think when we got to that last board wipe, the very last one that Preston did, I was just like, I kind of just want the game to end. And it seemed really unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely that anyone was going to do anything to stop you at that point. So I was kind of thinking, like, at that last board wipe, I was like, why are we doing this? But I think a good amount of board wipes should be at least 2 or 3, and then probably, like, it depends on the deck, but probably, I mean, my deck has 5 board wipes, and I feel like that's a pretty good amount. So I'd say probably between 3 and 5 is probably what I would say.
Well, because the goal is you're not necessarily trying to hit all of them in a game.
Yeah.
You just want to increase your likelihood of hitting one when it matters.
But I think it also depends on the deck. And
For
obviously, like, some colors don't really have board wipes, so it's like, you can only do so much.
So
but,
yeah, some have way better options than others, that's for sure. So
Right.
What about you, Preston? What do you think?
Well, I build good decks, so after I board wipe, I can actually do things. So, I'm not really too worried about ever playing out a board wipe and then making the game last too long, because I can usually start doing stuff a lot.
Yes, because none of those board wipes in that game were yours.
Yeah, but I was doing stuff almost the immediate turn after. Like, I didn't just board wipe and then just sit there.
You did cast Farewell.
Yeah, and then I started doing stuff the next turn.
Yeah, the turn after.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yes.
A lot of people cast a board wipe and then they'll just have nothing to do for like 3 turns.
yeah.
I very rarely find myself in a situation like that.
Yeah, I think that's rare for all of us, really. I think some of us are better than others at it, but I think it's pretty rare for all of us, because at least 9 times out of 10, if you cast a board wipe, you still have mana, so you can still recast something.
If you have, man.
Yeah,
But that's the thing.
That is a big downside of board wipes, is that, especially like the 6 mana ones or whatever, it's like now you have to, like, that might be the only thing you get to do that turn.
Right.
Like, you cast the board wipe and then you have to wait, and everyone else gets to rebuild before you. So, there's ways around that. But do you think that there's a sweet spot for how many board wipes people should run? Do you think it really it varies too much on the deck? Are people playing too many board wipes?
I don't think people usually play too many board wipes. Like, this deck has a ton, but that's because a lot of my deck is artifacts and stuff. So, like, if I'm casting something that blows up creatures, it's fine because I still have a lot of my pieces there work. And, at least for me, I play a lot of the board wipes that won't affect my own creatures. Like, I have Damning Verdict here, which blows up creatures that don't have counters on them. And I'm putting counters on all my creatures, so that usually would be a very good board wipe. In this one, not so much, because you two were also putting counters on most of your creatures that you wanted. In general, I'd probably go a little heavier than Steven, maybe 5, 6, 7 board wipes, depending on the deck. But yeah, it really depends on the deck and which board wipes you use, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it really does just sort of does just depend on the deck, as far as, like, what kind of card draw situation you have. Whoa. Lost a piece of the deck box, fell over.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, so depending on how much card draw you have, what kind of card advantage you have. I mean, so it's like, in a deck like yours, where you can draw stuff and do a whole bunch of stuff like that, you could probably only run 2 or 3 and be okay with it. But so a lot of it depends on the deck. And then I brought this up during the game. I don't know if you're going to keep it in after editing, but, like, it's hard when you're in the game to sit there, have a board wipe in your hand, or have something in your hand that can, if not set you up to win, at least knock someone else down a peg, and hope that you or someone else at the table can capitalize on that. It's hard to sit there with something like that in your hand and not play it if you can, because like I mentioned, a lot of times after a game you go, yeah, here's what was in my hand, or whatever, and it's like, okay, if I said, okay, well, here's my hand at the end of the game, and I was sitting on a blasphemous act for God knows how many turns, you're going to be like, why didn't you do that? Or if I didn't play propaganda when I did, even though it didn't really do much, if I didn't play that, it's like, why did you play that to protect yourself? I'm like, because I want this fucking 3-hour game to end, like it's kind of, it's almost a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation of like, okay, you can say, yeah, I didn't play this because this game went way too long and I want it to end, but then it's like, but then you and your play group are like, okay, but what if, why didn't you? You threw the game. That's not cool. That's not fun. No, but it also, again, went 2.5 hours.
You also don't have to show them your hand, though.
Right. No, for sure. And that's
what I would do. Like,
yeah,
like
for sure.
If someone was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna win if it gets back to my turn, and it's been like a 2-3 hour long game, even if I'm holding the Psych Rift in hand, I might just be like, GG.
Yeah.
Just I cast it, you gotta earn that win.
That's what I'm saying is like, it's hard even in a situation like that where, yeah, that's your choice to show people what you had. Even then it's still hard because it's like, okay, is that, did they really, did they win because they won, or did they win because I chose to not do anything?
Yeah, but
and it kind of feels bad, but at the same time, if you want a long game to end, you're gonna want a long game.
Well,
to
obviously,
end,
if you think you can win, play the board wipe. But there are so many times that I see people play a board wipe and then they either don't have a real follow up, or they're in top deck mode, or they're graveyard got exiled, so they can't play stuff out of there. They're screwed. There's nothing they can do. And those are the kind of games where, for the sake of either everyone gets to go home or you can shuffle up and play another game, in those situations I feel like it's sometimes better to just let the game end. But my philosophy is kind of shifted. I'm also at the point where I also am probably in the Preston camp. Like, this deck I think has like 3 or 4 real board wipes, and then it has like 2 or 3 situational board wipes. That's a lot of board wipes, especially for a creature deck. Because I used to, like, my creature decks, I used to only run like 2 or 3. Because I was like, well, I'm playing creatures. I don't want to blow up my creatures. But the thing is you're going to have so many situations where someone else popped up before you, or they're popping off harder than you. And it doesn't matter that you're a creature deck. You just have to do the board wipe, or you have no chance. So it's an equalizer. So, and even, like, I think control decks could probably run 1 or 2 more on top of that. So, like, I think the deck that I'm probably going to bring back for Revenge Week is my Quasar Augur of Agonies deck, which I played on the Uncommon Commanders episode. I think that deck only has like 2 real board wipes, maybe 1 other situational one. For a deck that only has like a dozen creatures and it's kind of control-y, that's not a lot. I should probably have 1 or 2 more board wipes in that deck. So when we go to Revenge Week, if that's for sure the deck I'm going to play, that's one of the upgrades I want to make, is add a couple more board wipes. But that's a long tangent that's only somewhat to do with this game.
Right.
What do you guys think about partners in general? Preston and I, along with Jason, who's editing this video. Hi, Jason. We've had a couple conversations on our podcast, the Geek and Speak podcast, which you should be listening to, talking specifically about partners, partner pairs, things we do and don't like, but in a more open conversation that maybe we can get a couple other notes in and let Steven and Tommy chip in. What do you guys think about partners? Are there versions of it you like over others? Like, do you like the open-ended partners? Do you like the open-ended partners, but they're narrow in what they do? Do you like partner with? Do you like background? What kind of versions of it do you like, or do you not really like any of it?
I think partner with not only is the most fair, but I think makes the most sense, technically speaking, in the game of Magic. Because it's like... although I do think it's very cool that you can't like, once it's just regular partner and you can just pair them up with any other card with partner, it's cool, and it opens up the door for many more decks, and that's cool. But I think flavor wise it doesn't always make sense. I mean, I think it does with your deck.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd agree. I like partner with, and I also like background. For kind of both the reasons that you've said and that Preston you talked about earlier, of like, it narrows the scope, and it still kind of feels like you're building a deck around a commander and around around a more
Specific
synergy, specific game plan. Obviously, you don't want to get too crazy, because obviously something like Ludovic and Sengir is going to be better than if you just got like two random partners that really don't have anything to do with each other. They just have partner.
Yeah, I mean.
but-
So my thing is, I think a lot of the older partners like Ludovic and Ravos, like those are a little too open ended, whereas the newer ones like Sengir and Kamal aren't as offensive because they're monocolor, and then they're more narrow in what they're trying to do. A lot of the OG partners were too open-ended and they were too color, so it was really easy to end up with these just 3 or 4 color good stuff piles that having the extra card. I joked in the intro for the video that partner is like having an extra card in your hand, but that's kind of true. You have in Commander, you have your 7-card hand and your Commander. That's kind of 8 cards, and now with partner, whatever variant you have, it's kind of like having another card. It's just insane. It's insane value. So I like the newer ones that are more narrow. I agree with Steven that I like the partner with. I haven't ever built a deck around partner with, I don't think, but there's a lot of cool design space and there's a lot of cool flavor to explore. But I also like the backgrounds. I think they're really cool. I like the design space there too. Preston, is that your favorite as well as the backgrounds, or?
Honestly, really any of the ones that are pretty limited to a specific set. So like the backgrounds, Friends Forever, I think is really good. And I'm sure they're going to keep doing ones like that. And I think those are good because it gives you multiple choices without having like, the 40, I think, generic partners are at this point. Something like that.
Ish.
Yeah.
We did the math one time and I don't remember what it was.
So yeah, like I'm not really a big fan of those, but the more niche ones that are like a specific set or maybe a couple sets, backgrounds are really cool. So yeah.
Cool. Well, did any of you guys have anything else you wanted to add about the game, these decks, partners in general?
Another mistake from Wizards. It's no Eminence, but...
Yes.
Eminence was busted.
It's no companion either, but hey, guess what next episode
Guess what?
I'm not going to be in that one because I don't want to.
You don't want to get stomped by Emoti and Karuga again?
I'm okay if I never see that.
Yeah, deck is whack. Thanks,
Yeah,
Preston.
yeah. So talk about cheating the rules of the game. Next
Companion.
Next week we are all playing decks with companion. So that should be pretty interesting. And I'm going double rule breaking because I not only have a companion, but I also have a partner.
partner.
So yeah.
So this man is just chilling with 3 cards in the command zone, like
Everyone
like good
just
fair
teams
magic.
up against Morgan right away. They're like, all right.
No, if you don't team up against me, you're wrong, because you know how crazy mine.
Because
Anyway,
we've seen that deck on the channel.
we've seen that deck on the channel. It is done.
It's a Emoti with Karuga as the companion. Is that deck? We've seen it a few times. It's good.
Cascade big stuff is insane.
How many extra turns did Jason take? On
Oh god,
the
like
Christmas
4 or
episode
5.
Before?
The one, the debut
Oh, it
episode
was-
of it is like 4 or 5.
Yeah, it was stupid.
With
He
walking
had so
eons.
many extra turns.
I'll look at Preston because he's the one who built it.
Yeah, that's still one of my all-time favorite episodes.
Oh, yeah, that was so fun.
When what was
The
that?
first Christmas
White Elephant.
episode.
Yeah,
It was
the Christmas
yeah.
episode last season.
Yes. All right. Well, I guess one last question before we go. What are you guys thinking about taking any of these decks to Revenge Week? Because I think at this point, Jason's probably the one who's sitting out of Revenge Week. I think you have a chance.
I have a chance, but I basically have to go like
How many
perfect the rest of the season.
How many wins does Jason have?
Enough.
He's got.
No,
Yes.
I want a number.
I don't.
Well, he doesn't have the numbers off his head.
I'd have
Yeah.
to look at the stats. I have a stat sheet on my computer,
Okay.
but it's looking like Jason's probably gonna. It's probably gonna be us 4 in Revenge Week again. But what do you think you're going to bring back? Because we're almost at the end of the season, and I know that you are feeling meh about how you played, but you've also played this deck before.
Yeah,
Is this what you're thinking about
I
bringing
was
back?
gonna say, we've seen Browlin and Shabraz on Freedom Week. It won. We saw it do its thing. I would say it even did its thing on Custom Commander, even though it was, not totally the same. but it still did what the deck is supposed to do. This game was definitely a lot. Well, first of all, it was slower than it normally is. Well, it is a lot of the time, at least since I've played it before. And even when I did finally get to the point where I cast my commander, I think I only had like Brown and Chappers on for like, or both on the battlefield at once. I think only for one turn. So yeah, it was no bueno. But I don't think I'll bring this deck back because again we have seen it a few times already. It's done well. So Shadrix is a good option. That's the main one I'm thinking about right now. Yeah, Shadrix.
So this is my second time putting this on the show, I think.
The second time on the show. First time was a $50 budget in season 1.
So I probably won't bring this one back. I might, but right now I'm maybe thinking Mari.
Okay.
Because I really like that deck and I want to let it do its thing a little more, but I'm not sure yet.
And then I guess this is my deck, so you're probably not going to bring it
Yeah,
back.
I probably won't bring this back
have you
for
thought
a couple
about-
reasons. One, because it's your deck, so I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, it would count. I played it and lost
Sure.
with it, so sure. But no, also because I have a much better candidate that I want to bring back. I've talked about it before. It's gonna be at this point, it is like 99.9% guaranteed that I'm bringing back Clavileño, First of the Blessed, the vampire precon from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, because it just did atrociously. It just did nothing.
Is it would you play an upgraded version of it?
Yeah, it'd be upgraded.
Okay.
I've already upgraded. I'm gonna upgrade it a little more before I eventually demolish it and build the all powerful Edgar Markov. Just because that deck just did nothing.
Tragic
It
spell.
did nothing. I played like what? I think I played like a Blood Artist, maybe,
Well,
and that's it.
Yeah, you played Blood Artist turn 2, never found a white mana source until like the second to last turn of the game.
Yeah.
And then you cast your commander only to sacrifice it to village rights.
Yeah, it was.
Tough.
There was nothing I could have done that game. So it's just like
Yeah, that was rough.
So it's like I want to bring it back, not just because
It's
it
a cool
lost,
deck.
because
It's a cool
it's a really cool deck. I've played it since then, and have like I think I almost won with it a couple of times, and
I think
so it's
you
a
have
really
won with
cool.
it before.
I think I have. It's a really cool deck, and it just not only do I feel bad of how it performed, it just didn't get to do anything, didn't get to show off what it can do. So I just want to give it another shot.
All right, well, this ran quite a bit longer than I intended, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Good night, and God bless America, and go get the 2-for-1 at Wendy's, and
2 for 1.
I don't know, dude. I haven't been to Wendy's in a while. It just sounds good. Yeah, make sure you subscribe for more Magic the Gathering content. Like I said, next week we are playing with Companions, and we'll have an after show for that. The season's wrapping up, but don't worry, we'll still have plenty of awesome stuff in between seasons, as well as I'm tired, guys. Just bye.